time. 60 seconds.
You don't need it? Yes, not.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Gary Common Council regular scheduled meeting, April the 16th, 2019, within the 6 p.m. hour. I will ask everyone that can and will please stand for the prayer and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. Mr. Moore will lead us in our prayer this evening.
Heavenly Father, we give our attention to you in honor of your greatness and of the complete control and authority that you have over all that you created. We enjoy the ingredients of a new day by the fact that you have looked beyond our faults and our shortcomings and have blessed us with health, strength, to be able to assemble in this place once again. As we proceed through this meeting, O Lord, we pray that the spirit of great accomplishments will be at the forefront of every mind and every heart. Remove those obstacles that tend to cast doubt on goals and objectives. Help us to be mindful of our neighbors who may be less fortunate than we, and that we will be encouraged, that we will be inspired to extend our blessings and to them, that they might be lifted up, that they might enjoy some of the pleasures of life. And we ask, oh God, that your blessings will fall upon all the candidates for public office. Bless those who are successful, that they will have a burning desire to serve the citizens of this city in a great way, and in a way that is pleasing to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In the mighty and precious name of his name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Moore, for the prayer. Thank you, Ms. Moore, for our prayer. We'll deal with that. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Present. Councilman Brown.
Here.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Here. Councilman Crocco. Councilwoman Rogers. Present. Councilman Smith. Here. Councilwoman Sparks Wade. Here. Councilwoman Wyatt. Present. And President Brewer.
Here.
Mr. President, there are 8 present, 1 absent.
With 8 present, 1 absent, we do have a quorum to conduct the business of the city of Gary. Have a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
Mr. President, I move that the minutes from our previous meeting be adopted.
Second by Councilman Smith. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Abstain, I was not in attendance.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt.
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, voted 7 yes, 1 abstention.
With a vote of 7 yes, 1 abstention, the motion, minutes have been adopted. So, Councilman, order on to resolution on first reading.
CPO 2019-18, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budgets for the operating expenses of grants and special revenue funds for the Gary Police Department of the City of Gary, January the 1st, 2009, ending September 30th, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2019-19, an ordinance establishing a new fund and budget to administer Lake Michigan Coastal Grant Funds. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2019-20, an ordinance transferring casino funds to the Park Fund 250 for seasonal workers. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2019-21, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana, petition MVAH Partners, 9100 Center Point Drive, Suite 210, Westchester, Ohio, property at 701 through 15 Broadway, Gary, Indiana.
Finance.
CPO 2019-22, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana, petition of Frank Aliberti, 637 East Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana, property at 637 East Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Finance.
CPO 2019-23, an ordinance establishing opioids as a nuisance and sanctioning cost recovery, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary.
Finance.
CPO 2019-24, an ordinance revising the 2019 appropriations for the general salary and operating budgets for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2019-25, an amendment to the Gary Civil Rights Ordinance, number 8967, sponsored by Councilwoman Rebecca Wyatt of the First District.
Ways and Means.
Mr. President, enters silent opinion on some resolutions.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brown.
what committee did you assign 2019-23?
Finance.
To what, finance?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. President, the Finance Committee has before it CPO 2019-18. For the record, I approve this ordinance notice going out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-18 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2019-19. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-19 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before CPO 2019-20. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-20 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2019-23. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-23 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2019-24. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-24 for reporting out to the council.
Shoot.
19, 20, 23, and 24.
Councilman Smith?
Mr. President, Ways and Means would like to report out CPO 2019-2020.
Thank you. Before we go on to special select, May 7th, 2019 is the general election that's taking place, and that's the same day that Gary Common Council is scheduled to meet. I'm asking that we schedule this Gary Common Council meeting to May 8th at 6 p.m. inside the Genesis Convention Center. I have a motion at this time.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Rogers.
due to the election on May 7th, I need to reschedule the council meeting to Wednesday, May 8th at 6 o'clock here at the Genesis Convention Center.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Brown. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Moore.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
A vote of 8-0, the council regular scheduled meeting for May 7th is now moved to May 8th at 6 p.m. inside the Gary Genesis Center in this room. Also, City Hall will be closed that day, and also this Friday, City Hall also will be closed, service of Good Friday. At this time, special select by any council member. May 8th, yes.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Boards and Commissions has, 2 vacancies on the redevelopment commission. All interested parties, please submit your letter of pleases and your resume to the Gary County Council. 401 Broadway, Suite 103A, Gary, Indiana, 46402. Attention Councilwoman Lawrence Caldwell. Also, please join the 5th District for our nutrition education program. Yesterday was our second class. Our next class is scheduled for Monday, April the 22nd at 5:30. Please come out and learn nutrition. Oh, also, Monday, May the 20th, the 5th District will have our community forum on our 5x5x5 cleanup. So that's always a good topic. Everybody comes out and voices their concerns. That's Monday, May the 20th at 5:30, Roosevelt Pavilion, 2145 Harrison Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown.
On Saturday, April 20th, at 11 o'clock, our Mayor, Carol Freeman Wilson, and Pastor Eric Boone, Tree of Life Baptist Church will present the first ever citywide Easter egg helicopter drop. There will be over 1,000 eggs, toys, and prizes at Tolleson Park. That's 1709 Ellsworth Street, Gary, Indiana. That's at 11 o'clock, Saturday, April 20th. And early arrival is suggested. Also, I'd like to extend my condolences to the family of Anna Kate Stanford. Many of you know Bernicia Payne, her mom passed away. She'll be funeralized this Saturday at, oh gosh.
Van Buren.
Van Buren Baptist Church. So, I'd like to extend my condolences to the entire Stanford family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Wyatt.
Yes, I'd like to announce the First District Community Meeting scheduled for April 22nd. That's a Monday, 6 p.m. Marquette Park Pavilion. Special guest, Peter Marikas, the Emergency Manager for the school city. And also there will be an MCC cleanup on May 4th. It's Saturday, May 4th. And they usually meet at the old Rouse to start off. About, I think meet about 7 a.m. So you won't be late if you get the right side up. Thank you.
Councilwoman Wade.
The Sixth District will hold its community meeting on Monday, April 22nd at 5:30 p.m. at the Blind Social Center, 4955 Broadway. And our special guests will be Pastor Dyke Lee of the 10 Points Coalition and the 555 Community Cleanup Departments. Everyone is welcome to attend. And Mr. President, last Tuesday, April 9th, I attended a Board of Zoning meeting, and one of the agenda items was presented by Mr. Slavic. I know Mr. Slavic is here today, and Mr. John Allen. They are partners in a venture to put a restaurant and serve alcohol at 624 Broadway. The meeting was well attended, and the Board of Zoning did indicate that they had a quorum. And as we have received our report from our representative on the BZA, they went forth after having determined that there was a quorum. The vote for this particular special use permit was 2-0 with one abstention, and the abstention was because the member of the board also worked for Gary Housing Authority, and there was a conflict of interest in determining, because Gary Housing Authority is contesting this special use permit as well as the ownership in a separate case before another court. The board went ahead with the special use permit and the arguments on both sides. Staff also participated and gave their recommendation favorably. The board voted 2-0 in favor of the recommendation for the special use permit. Sometime later, there was some discussion as to whether or not, after having established the quorum, that there was a quorum to vote. And no one in the meeting contested, and no one who had standing. The Gary Housing Authority had its attorney there. Mr. Slavic, Mr. Slavic and Mr. Allen, they did not contest whether or not there was a quorum. And even after, let's say there was not a quorum, even if there wasn't a quorum, the vote was 2-0. And upon another person being there, the vote would either be 2-1 or 3-0.
So that is called a distinction without a difference, because it would not matter either way. And so the premise is that they had a quorum to begin the meeting, therefore they had a quorum to take any votes, and everyone knew that the one member was going to abstain or recuse himself, not abstain, recuse himself because of his conflict of interest. And so I am asking that, because this particular item was supposed to be on the agenda for tonight, and these gentlemen have been trying to invest and trying to develop that particular property for some time, and have been met with many delays. And this is one of the complaints of business people wanting to develop in our city, wanting to establish a small business in our city. And the plans that they have are phenomenal. And I believe it's in a great spot. I believe that they shouldn't even have had to come before the Board of Zoning if we did not have such archaic zoning in our city. The planning of it needs to be updated. And so I am asking, Mr. President, that we add this to our agenda and at least give the owners of this business an opportunity to present their information before the council, because they have been met with many delays and they have been working on their building for quite some time. And if there is an issue that we are not a party to that as a council, and Gary Housing Authority and these gentlemen can fight that out in court at whatever time, because it is before the court, they've already filed. And they can fight that out in the court, and we should not be in the way, further delaying their opportunity to develop this particular property. Thank you, Mr. President.
I refer to our legal advisor at this time. He did just tell me some things, but I'll refer to him at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having served on the zoning board for several years as the zoning president, I'm very familiar with the rules. The councilwoman is correct. They did indeed have a quorum. However, a minimum vote of 3 is needed for anything to pass, very similar to this body. 5 members constitute a quorum. However, if you fail to get 5 votes, if the vote was 4-1, that agenda item would fail for lack of a majority. It's the same rule that applies to the zoning board. However, having said that, the recommendation of the zoning board is advisory to this council. So by it failing in and of itself does not bar it from coming to the council. However, the issue remaining is, by it being a non-fiscal issue, the authority of this item coming to the council is that of the executive branch and not of the council. And I believe it would be overstepping the council's authority to place a non-fiscal issue on the agenda without the consent of the executive branch. Having said that, again, the fact that it failed the zoning board, which it did fail for lack of a majority, while they indeed had a quorum, that in and of itself does not bar it from coming to this council. However, it should come at the recommendation of the executive branch and not from the floor of the council.
Mr. President,
Councilman Wade?
the representative from the executive branch was in attendance at the meeting, and it was favorably recommended by the representative from the executive branch.
Yeah, then the request needs to come from the executive branch to add it to the agenda. That's fine.
Well,
I'm not running the meeting.
Well, let's do this. I have spoke with the mayor on this issue here, and I have spoke to some other department heads about this too. And I have asked that a separate meeting be convened to see if a happy meeting come about this. And then at that time, I will form my opinion about adding this to our next agenda. At this time, we don't have anything to add to the agenda at this time, to add it to the agenda. So therefore, if I wanted to, I couldn't do it because you have nothing before you to add to the agenda. So what I will ask, in that meantime, in a 2-week span, that the city will meet with the petitioner that's looking forward to operate at 624 Broadway. Then at that time, I will be ready to make my recommendation on adding it to the agenda at this time. Even if I wanted to add it at this time, you have nothing before you to add to the agenda. So that will be my recommendation of this council here, that we will see this out at our next council meeting on first reading.
Mr. President.
Councilman Brown.
Excuse me. The city received a donation, and I need to make a motion to accept that donation. The city received the following donation: $1,000 from First Midwest Bank to be used for general operating expenses and outreach material for the Rainbow Shelter. That is my motion, that we accept that donation.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt.
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote 8-0, the motion has been approved to accept a $1,000 donation from Midwest Bank. It's granted and so ordered. At this time, special select any council members at this time. Okay. Okay. Before we go any further, I would like to recognize Attorney Lay, a former member of this body that's in the presence with us also. I have a Andre Harris. Is he here today? Okay. Mr. Harris, can you come forward? Mr. Harris is an author, and he just published a book, and he would like to address this body at this time. Yes, sir, to my right. Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, pass on down. Okay, okay.
I'll be really brief. My name is Andre Renee. That's my brand name. I'm from Andre Renee Writes Publishing Company. We started the company right here in Northwest Indiana, right here in Gary. And so my past, been a business owner of a property management company. I had a cleaning service for 20 years. I just retired. I'm still just 25 years old. I also had a ministry here at a church for 2 years on 19th and Grant, the historical white church, the itty-bitty thing. I had that church for 2 years. So I asked God, I didn't want to pastor. I felt like I was kind of out of my calling. I wanted to do something different. And so I became a children's book. It became natural. And so I have 7 children's books that's published to date. We are an African-American owned publishing company. I'm the owner. I'm black. And so we have books. So we spoke at Macaulay School for Girls. We spoke at Williams School twice. We have our books in libraries across the country. We have our books in a couple of schools, Boucher International in Chicago. We're trying to get the Dairy School system in here. And so our latest book, so we have a book about, so what are our books about? Our books is incorporating 5 core competencies of social and emotional learning. In short, that's what's the curriculum at the schools. Also, we have 2 books to choose for bibliotherapy, basically using a book for therapy. This book is bullying. Young Eric is bullied because of his adopted parents. One is black, one is white, and both are women. Hashtag that's what I see with the Lori Lightfoot. This book is dealing with grief. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still at war. And so we have people that are in the armed forces defending our nation. These 2 books cover. In this book, Emma, she's talking to her dad via Skype because she has to be defending our country. Unfortunately, not everyone comes home for war. The monster in uniform depicts the loss of a loved one via the war. And so the family comes together to explain to young Emma why her father's not coming home. So this is the notification that your family has given all to our country. This is the reason why we write. Why am I here today? We want the council support in any way to come out on June 15th. We secured a room at the Gary Library. All our book signings, this is our first book signing here in a year. And so we want to make it a grand. So June 15th, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to give away this book. We already have a fundraiser, funds are coming in, whatever that funds equal to, we're going to give this book away to families. Teach me how to respect money. This book is about money management to children, ages 4 to 10. Imagine having a child that young learning the proper use of money. This is the goal behind this book. And so June 15th, in any way possible, don't know how to act you, not a politician. And so any way you can come out and support us, my information is on the back of the pamphlet. Those are yours to keep. My website is www.arwrites.com. That's arwrites.com. you guys can go to our website, support, but we want the city of Gary to come, support, and really support this movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
What
Harris.
time, what time is your event?
It starts at 9 a.m. The reason why it's still in motion because the library remained partner with us instead of, when Dr. Rooney made partner with us. So we're still working on details. But it is set for June the 15th, by the way. Any questions, guys?
Any questions, council members?
Mr. President, how many hours from 9 o'clock until?
9 to 2. From 9 to 2. Anyone else have any questions about the books? Under Renee?
I just, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to thank you for at least continuing your ministry and serving people and children and, you know, touching issues that are very sensitive and a lot of issues that people don't want to deal with unless it comes to their home. And I think preparation is the key to being able to make that adaptation. So I want to thank you and bless you. We'll try to support you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right, you're welcome.
Anyone else? I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for taking this time and bringing this before us. Just commend you for your hard work that you continue to do and bringing this back home at the same time. Appreciate you now. Look forward to supporting you. All right.
What's the price of the books? You have a general idea? You got to eat.
Teach me how to respect money is $14 and the rest are $12. But keep in mind, June 15th, we have the mass giveaway. We raise $1,000, we're going to give away $1,000 in books. We want the families that need that, and that's the whole purpose of this. Let's build our library up from wall to wall, floor to ceiling.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman White?
just one thing. Have you contacted the Gary Literacy Coalition? Because they might. Yeah, good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, he's from here. He know Ms. Wyman. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I'd like to send my condolences out to Robert Ford. He was a past minister in my church, and he passed away this week, well, last week there, and send my condolences out to his family at this time. Also, this Thursday at 5:30 p.m., the Gary Cleanup Committee will meet to discuss our upcoming cleanup that will be taking place on the 27th of this month there. So we're asking everyone that can and will please come out to our cleanup meeting as we talk about our cleanup endeavors for this year. Also, at the last council meeting, I talked about the tax abatement for new homes being built inside the city. We're still working out the details of that. I will have that ready before the council for first and second reading at the next council meeting on the 8th. And also, I'm adding a resolution also. We always talk about with our fire department, and we talk about getting Gary citizens to work. I'm putting we're ringing up here. I'm putting together a resolution in support of the fire department lowering the age from 21 years old to 18 years old to be able to be hired on the Gary Fire Department. And that way that gives them an avenue to get inside the high schools and start recruiting. If they go in now, they talk to our young people about being hired on the fire department, and it seems so far down the line because they have to wait till they're 21 before they can actually get on the job there. So at this time here, they could take them on, and by the time they get through going through training, they're at least 19, maybe 20 years old on the job. So that helps out a whole lot. So I'll bring those two at the same time so that way we could take them through committee at the same time also. No, the mayor's coming. Are you ready? Still gonna wait? Okay. Okay. You ready to go? Okay. Well, Ms. Bennett's going to come. She has a presentation at this time, and we will talk about the other things that have taken place as far as the new road at Buffalo Harbor towards the end of this meeting. Chief of Staff, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you. Good evening, council and constituents. On a rare occasion, you have embodied in one person someone that youth admire, their co-workers admire, and the sports community admires, and their administration admires. And I think we had that in Coach Rodney Fisher. Do you want to continue, Mayor?
Doing a good job.
Okay. Coach Rodney Fisher, who is the 2019 Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame inductee. And because we value Coach Fisher, we wanted to put forth a City of Gary resolution. I'm going to hand it off to the mayor because I think it is a worthy honor and one that the mayor should present. So I'm going to step aside, Coach Fisher, and let the mayor take over.
Thank you, Dana, and good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. As a former basketball player, it is indeed an honor to honor someone who has been not only a coach, but a father figure and a champion for so many, not just those in his team, but those who were not on his team, those who were not in his school. And so, you know, we couldn't make it down to the induction for Coach Fisher, but we certainly wanted to honor him here. And so this simply reads, whereas Rodney Fisher is a 2019 inductee to the Basketball Hall of Fame. He was the head girls basketball coach at Westside Leadership Academy for over 30 years. That's a long time. Yes. And whereas Coach Fisher is the second winningest Indiana high school girls basketball coaches in 41 seasons at Work and Westside, the teams won 19 sectionals, 3 regionals, and were the 2005 4A runner-up. That's a significant record. And whereas Coach Fisher led teams to participate in a state runner-up, won semi-state, 3 regionals, 17 sectionals, 23 Northwest Conference titles, and took the 2014-15 team to participate in the Indiana Hall of Game Classics, and lost only 1 game to a Gary Community School during his tenure, and that was Lew Wallace in 1994. And whereas Coach Fisher was also the head girls volleyball coach at Westside Leadership Academy for over 20 years, earning 22 Northwest Indiana Conference titles, 6 sectional titles, 12 Coach of the Year awards. And Coach Fisher has been a girls high school track coach and has coached at Gary Middle and Elementary schools. And whereas Coach Fisher has coached and mentored thousands of girls and boys within the Northwest Indiana region, he developed several high school players that transitioned to collegiate and professional basketball. And whereas Coach Fisher is a 1968 graduate of Marion High School, Marion, Indiana, where he played under Hall of Fame coach Jack Colescott and was a 4-year letter winner in baseball. And he earned a degree at Indiana State University and spent over 40 years as a physical education teacher in the Gary Community School Corporation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the accomplishments of Coach Rodney W. Fisher, an award-winning coach, educator, mentor, worthy of recognition and honor. And we thank him for his passion for working with youth, for he has made a positive impact in the Gary community. And we commend him and offer congratulations on his induction into the 2019 Basketball Hall of Fame. Coach Fisher.
Make it short and sweet. All the young, fabulous young ladies that I've had a chance to work with. That's why I'm being honored tonight, and that's why I'm being honored as an inductee in the Hall of Fame. We won games. I didn't win games. We won games. And as the mayor said,
If I have to be up here, you have to be up here. Just a wonderful time. 40-some years at the Gary school system. Yeah, there were some ups and downs, but I wouldn't have traded anything in the world for the experience that I had being at Gary Ward and at Gary Westside. I thank you so much.
Councilwoman Wade?
I'd just like to say congratulations to Coach Fisher. I played against him as a player in volleyball and basketball and as a coach at Lew Wallace in volleyball, and they were tough to beat. They were pretty tough to beat. I think we might have beat y'all twice in my entire career. So, again, congratulations, Coach Fisher. It is an honor well deserved.
All right. With that, we'll go to third and final. Madam Clerk?
CPO 2019-14, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Mary Hubbard Bobos, 7734 Ider Avenue, Auburn, Indiana. Property at 3921 Tennessee Street, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith?
I move to defer CPO 2019-14 and move it back to committee.
Second.
Been moved and properly second to defer CPO 2019-14. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt,
Yes.
and President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Vote 8-0. CPO 2019-14 has been deferred and moved back to committee. So ordered.
CPO 2019-15, an ordinance revising 2019 appropriations for the Immunization Grant Fund 240 for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I
Brown.
move, excuse me, I move to defer CPO 2019-15. I want to move it back to the Finance Committee, with the Finance Committee meeting on next Tuesday, April 23rd at 5:30 p.m.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt,
Yes.
and President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
Vote of 8-0. CPO 2019-15 has been deferred and moved back to the Finance Committee.
CPO 2019-16, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budgets for the operating expenses and salaries of grants and special revenue funds for Gary Human Relations Commission and Commission for Women of the City of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, and ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilman
I
Brown.
move for passage of CPO 2019-16 on third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. This time our mayor's coming with the overview.
Good evening again. This is an ordinance that addresses appropriations both for the Gary Human Relations Commission as well as the Commission for Women. During the 50th anniversary that was held in 2014, the Human Relations Commission received a number of donations. There are $960 in those funds that are still left, and we would like to use these funds for travel and education. The consortium of civil rights organizations has a conference actually coming up in June in Indianapolis. And both commissioners and members of the staff are able to travel to Indianapolis and get continuing education, find out about investigating. There's a unique feature with our commission and a number of commissions throughout the state where the commissioners actually read case appeals. And so this is necessary for the training for not only staff but commissioners. In addition to that, we have 2-year grants from the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute to support the Rainbow Arc Shelter. We had a visit from the director and staff at ICJI about a month ago. And one grant is the Domestic Violence Prevention and Treatment Grant, which ends on June 30th, 2019, with $81,783 to be expended for salary benefits, building maintenance, bus passes, and office supplies. The Stop Violence Grant Against Women, which ends on June 30th, 2019, with $31,758 left to be expended for salary and benefits and education training material. The VOCA Domestic Violence Grant, which ends on September 30th, 2019, with $42,419 to be expended for salary and benefits, emergency clothing, washers, dryers, conference, and client furniture. The following grant is a 1-year grant that was awarded from the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute from October 1st, 2018 to September 30th, 2019, and it was just executed. It's the Social Services Block Grant. $8,000 will be utilized for extermination, security, and fire monitoring fees, coalition membership fees, and plumbing. And a 1-year grant from United Way that ends on 12/31/19, and it is the EFSP FEMA grant, $5,000 that will be utilized for new appliances, and there will be we expect $5,000 in donations for the year via the Rainbow Donation Fund. To date, we have received $2,000 that would be utilized for outreach, education material, and general operating support for the shelter. Last evening on the Facebook Messenger, I got a note from someone who was in the temporary shelter provided by the trustee's office. We were able to provide them with permanent housing. And we know that this is an essential service to our community. We have been talking with the YWCA because they are a partner in other communities, but this is what the ordinance is for, Mr. President.
Is there any question by any council members at this time? Thank you, Mayor. At this time, public portion is now open for anyone who'd like to speak for or against CPO 2019-16. You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Good evening. My name is Donna Jack, and I live in the 2nd District. And the reason why I'm speaking today, I'd like to give you a little bit of background on why the money is needed for the Rainbow. I sat on the board for 12 years with Mary Brown and the mayor. We were the most well-funded organization of our type in the country. When we used to go to Washington, and Mary can testify to this, where others were able to afford to send 3 people, we went in 20 deep. Wow. And it was because we wanted our staff to understand how the process worked from top to bottom. The Rainbow is a domestic violence shelter. It's emergency, 56 days. The ARC was what they call a transitional house. And how it worked was, you come in, we give you everything you need to start a household, And periodically, we took things back, you replaced them, so that when you stepped out into the world, you had put together the materials you needed to run a household. We had GED on site, we had all kinds of counseling on site because we could afford it. We were so well funded that we could send 17 buses to Great America so that families would experience what it was like for the whole family to go somewhere together. That meant grandma could go, auntie could go. Some of the ladies who were on, worked with the city council staff. We invited them and they were able to go. We no longer have the Ark. Now, you say, how can you go from being the envy of domestic violence shelters in the United States to having to come here today and ask for money? Part of the problem is the checks and balances and internal control for the Gary Commission for Women is done by a board. And the board members are brought on board by the mayor. For over 7 years, there has been no board over the Gary Commission for Women. That means there was no internal control. There was no oversight. We lost grants that we had from 15 to 20 years because when the government likes what you're doing, they continue to fund it. None of those grants exist today because of lack of oversight. So,
Thank you. Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Any discussion by council members? Roll call, Madam Clerk. Mayor?
Mr. President, I just wanted to correct that. There is a board. They do meet. And the dollars that you're appropriating are actually state and federal grants. So I just want you to understand that.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Vote of 8-0, CPO 2019-16 passed on third and final, so ordered.
CPO 2019-17, an amendment to ordinance 9222, 2019 operating budget appropriations for the city of Gary regarding the cumulative capital IMP CCI fund, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilman
I
Brown.
move for passage of CPO 2019-17 on third and final reading.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Overview at this time. Mayor's coming back.
Mr. President and members of the council, these are cumulative capital improvement funds. They are designated for certain purposes. In this case, we are looking to use them for HVAC. DA Dodd has done and continues to do a yeoman's job on a number of our buildings. You may be familiar with the fact that because of the polar vortex and the harsh winter that we had at times, we had a number of weather-related HVAC failures, building failures, and this is the purpose of that effort. We know that it's time for our air conditioners to be fired up. We want to make sure that they are working as they should, and I know that a number of the council members asked that whether or not dollars could be used for park improvement. They could, but I will tell you that the lion's share of this money is needed for HVAC.
Any questions, council members? Thank you, Mayor. At this time, public portion is set aside. Anyone like to speak for or against CPO 2019-17? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance. Seeing none, public portion is now closed. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt,
Yes.
Yes.
and President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2019-17 passed on third and final, and so ordered.
Mr. President, as pending ordinance and resolutions on third and final.
Council pending ordinance resolution on second reading.
CPO 2019-18, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budgets for the operating expenses of grants and special revenue funds for the Gary Police Department of the City of Gary, January the 1st, 2019, ended September 30th, 2019, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
I'm going to ask if you can do all of finance at one time when we do one vote, if there's no objection by any council members. Okay. Madam Clerk?
CPO 2019-19, an ordinance establishing a new fund and budget to administer Lake Michigan Coastal Grant Fund, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller. CPO 2019-20, an ordinance transferring casino funds to the Parks Fund 250 for seasonal workers, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller. CPO 2019-23, an ordinance establishing opioids as a nuisance and sanctioning cost recovery, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary. CPO 2019-24, an ordinance revising 2019 appropriations for the general salary and operating budgets for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown?
I move for passage of CPO 2019-18, 19, 20, 23, and 24 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, April 23rd at 5:30 p.m., and a public hearing on Wednesday, May 8th.
Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Caldwell.
Mr. Chair, for the record, I think 19, was that?
Yes, 19 was one.
19 was one.
We omitted 19.
I thought she said 19. Okay. Well, 19 is also included.
Pardon?
They thought 19 got omitted in your,
No, actually.
yeah, I thought it was said, yeah. 19 was said.
I said 19, yes. Oh,
All right. It's been moved and properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown,
yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt,
Yes.
and President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
Vote of 8-0, CPO 2019-18, 1919, 1920, 1923, 1924 is moving to the Finance Committee. April the 23rd, that's at 5:30 p.m., and a public hearing May 8th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2019-21, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana, petitioner MVAH Partners 9100 Center Point Drive, Suite 210, Westchester, Ohio, property at 701 through 15 Broadway, Gary, Indiana. You want me to do the next one?
Yes.
CPO 2019-22, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Frank Aliverdi, 637 East Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. Property at 637 East Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
What was that?
Want to include the other one, CPO 2019-14.
Well, it wouldn't be on second reading, so just at your end of the presentation, you can just give the date. It wouldn't be on second reading. You just send it back to committee.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2019-21 on second reading with the planning meeting on April 23rd, 5 p.m., and a public hearing on May 8th, 6 p.m.
Second.
Okay. Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2019-22 with a planning meeting on April 23rd, 5 p.m., and a public hearing on May 8th, 6 p.m.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt,
Yes.
and President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2019-21 and 2019-22 is moving to the Planning Committee Tuesday, April the 23rd at 5 p.m. and a public hearing May 8th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2019-25, an amendment to the Gary Civil Rights Ordinance, number 8967, sponsored by Councilwoman Rebecca Wyatt of the 1st District.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2019-25 on second reading with a committee meeting April the 23rd at 6 p.m. and a public committee meeting May the 8th at 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Move and properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt,
Yes.
and President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2019-25 is moving to the Ways and Means Committee, April the 23rd at 6 p.m., and a public hearing May 8th at 6 p.m.
Mr. President, it's pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you. Council Smith, at this time, CPO 2019-14.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I move for a planning meeting on CPO 2019-14 on April 23rd at 5 p.m. and a public hearing on May 8th, 6 p.m.
Second.
Moving properly second. This is just for public information. This doesn't need a roll call for. So CPO 2019-14 is moving back, has been deferred early in the meeting, and the meeting will be April the 23rd at 5 p.m., and the public hearing will be May 8th at 6 p.m. Councilwoman Brown, I believe you have one also.
Yeah, I already made the motion.
You made your motion on yours with your date?
To move it to that date.
Okay, all right. So just for the public knowledge, CPO 2019-15 is moving to the finance, going back to the finance committee hearing, April the 23rd at 5:30 p.m., public hearing May 8th. Okay. At this time, we will have the mayor's report at this time.
Again, good evening. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the status of the legislation, specifically Senate Bill 552. You may recall that we have two pieces of legislation, actually a number of pieces, but two major pieces of legislation pending. One is Senate Bill 552. The other is Senate Bill 66. The first piece of legislation deals with the relocation of the casino from Buffington Harbor to the Borman Expressway. It would then allow for the development of the North American Intermodal Gateway in okay, that's better. Thank you. Maybe I'll, well, here comes the expert. Of the North American Intermodal Gateway at Buffington Harbor. Closely related to that was a groundbreaking that occurred today, but just to update everyone on the status of the casino legislation, 552 was passed yesterday by the House, and it was a fairly significant margin. There were 70 votes in favor of it. And what happens now, because the Senate has passed a version and the House passed a different version, there will be a conference committee likely next week, and they will try to reconcile the two different versions. The Senate passed a version that actually incorporated Senate Bill 66, which is the development of an intermodal compact. And so the question will become, is there a general consensus that there should be some type of transmodal, rather, compact that would create a partnership between the city and the state for the development of the North American Intermodal Gateway? Our position is that we would be comfortable with or without it. In fact, our experience and what we know thus far indicates that the open market will support the development in that area. And our major request to the General Assembly is that the casino be moved out of there to lend itself to the development. And, you know, when you talk about intermodal, it sounds kind of esoteric, but what I will say is that because of the railways, the highways, the water, the air that we have, there is an opportunity to really create a new industry here in the city of Gary that really does focus and center around logistics, new jobs, new businesses, new opportunities. And the fact that Fulcrum Bioenergy is already poised to go into that area, and the fact that NIPSCO, having demolished the Dean Mitchell Power Plant, stands ready as a partner for development in that area, and along with Carmous Lime, along with U.S. Steel and some other industrial interests, it really speaks to the fact that we're better off with a casino out of that area and on to another location. Lake Rivers and Logistics, a new stevedore, has been operating almost a year there. They are doing well. So the road that we broke ground on today is an industrial road that will really support the industrial development in that area. We know that about 5 years ago there was a road that was built. It had been promised previously to Majestic, and we were able to keep that promise, build the road, and that was the road that took you over as opposed to having going under the railroad and, into water. So that road exists now. What we're doing is building additional lanes so that that road will be conducive to industrial use, because right now it's only vehicle use. And it also works nicely with the local tracks program, where we got $15 million from the state to remove the ag-grade crossings on North Crock Road, which is on the other end of Buffington Harbor, creating a really nice corridor for industrial development. We also had two other ribbon cuttings over the last 2 weeks, the St. Mark Early Learning Center and the Gary Dialysis Center. The St. Mark Early Learning Center is a partnership with Geminis and Regional Healthcare. The Early Learning Center is the old St. Mark School on Ridge Road and Jackson Street. It is a beautiful daycare. They had even little uniforms for the kids, firefighters, police, nurses, doctors. It's really nice. So if you get a chance to stop by and take a tour, they're looking to expand it already. The Gary Dialysis Center is the building that's next to the Walgreens on 25th Avenue off of Grant. It, too, is a nice facility, and, we would that people would not suffer in a way that requires dialysis. but it is a beautiful healthcare facility, and the staff is extremely friendly. They're looking to take on new clients. National Boys and Girls Club Awareness Week was last week, and we did a proclamation and participated in a Don't Be a Bully, Be a Star rally and a basketball game, a celebrity basketball game on Tuesday, April 9th. I want to thank all of the folks that played on our team. The Gary firefighters saved the day. We came within 3. But we also had Ty Atkins played, Leah Stewart played, Nicole Brewer played. So it was, and I played a couple of minutes, just a couple though. But it was a great opportunity to support the Boys and Girls Club. They had an opportunity to win $5,000 by having people come into the club. And they just do great work there. We hosted a press event last Tuesday to kick off World Civility Day, which was Thursday, April 11th. Melba Moore was there for the press conference and World Civility Day. I want to commend Chuck Hughes and the Chamber of Commerce. This is an event that started in Gary, Indiana, and is being observed all over the world. And, you know, I think we all agree that civility is in place. I also want to encourage everyone to sign up, to volunteer, to support a Blight Buster Day. That's going to be on April 27th. And Household Hazardous Waste Day is the same day. We will be taking, collecting household hazardous waste beginning at 8 a.m. and Blight Buster begins at 8 a.m. as well here at the Genesis Center. The task force has been out in the community bringing awareness to businesses, gas stations, rental properties, focusing on dumping. And we have been working with these businesses to encourage compliance. And we're pleased to say that the business community has responded extremely well, as have residents in the community. I also want to bring the business community's attention to a contractors roundtable, and it centers around how to do business with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Tammy Davis is spearheading that effort. It's going to be held at the Gary Sanitary District, 3600 West 3rd Avenue from 1 to 3 on April 25th. Additionally, we will join Spectacle Entertainment in a business-to-business minority showcased on Friday, May 3rd, 2019 at the Majestic Star Event Center, 1:30 to 5 o'clock. And these, not only will it be an opportunity to do business with Majestic, but the Gary Housing Authority will be there. The Sanitary District will also be at this event. The city will have a booth as well. And we are just encouraging our local businesses to come out and come out early because of the fact that we want to encourage business development, especially with there being a new owner of the casino. The Calumet Township is hosting a job fair, and that will be held on Tuesday, April 30th from 10 to 12:30. It's going to be at the Calumet Township Multipurpose Center, 1900 West 41st Avenue. The census count is a year away. It's April 1st, 2020. You can find census jobs on the website, which is www.2020census.gov. We are formulating our census count, complete count committee, because we are focused on complete count. We have been actively engaged with our GIS to make sure that we are accurately identifying addresses. In addition, we are partnering with the Gift of Hope and the AARP for our senior health fair, which will be held April 23rd, 2019 at the Genesis Convention Center from 10 to 2. It is an opportunity for seniors to not only learn about health, but to learn about 311, to learn about other services that they may need. And there will be a number of partners who will be displaying booths at the health fair, and we would invite everyone to come out. The city's next webinar is Thursday, April 18th, and this will be the citywide comprehensive cleanup webinar hosted by Public Works Director Clotilde LeBroy. We're going to be hosting a webinar each month, and the public can participate in the meeting from their electronic devices via GoToMeeting, global.gotomeeting.com, or from your smartphone, 1-866-899-4679. And we have actually, we will also be broadcasting that live on Facebook. You may recall that earlier this year, actually as early or as late as March, we had seen a spike in homicides particularly, and in violent crime generally. I'm pleased to say that that trend is not continuing. We are one homicide above where we were last year, but through a number of efforts, we are seeing this trend not continue. I would also say that we had a great meeting with our enforcement partners, specifically U.S. Attorney Tom Kirsch, Prosecutor Bernard Carter, our Chief and Deputy Chief, and the sheriff is on this team, but he was not able to attend that meeting earlier this week. And I think it really speaks to the importance of having law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level work together to address public safety in this community. With that, I would, today, I wanted to make the council aware, we had a dumping incident that will result in prosecution at General Services. A person came and dumped medical waste, among other things, private information. And that person has been identified. They actually came back to remove the waste, and they will be prosecuted from a misdemeanor perspective. So I did want to make the council aware of that. Additionally, we are doing paving. Paving has already begun. Clark Road, Harrison Street, Clark Road between 15th all the way to the end, with the exception of the portion that was paved last year. Harrison Street from 35th Avenue, actually south of 35th Avenue and continuing south, because again, a portion was previously paved. 15th Avenue, east of Virginia Street to Martin Luther King is currently being paved. Also, Forest Avenue will be paved. The back part of Locust Avenue that was not paved when the total restructuring of Local and Shelby was done, that will be paved. And I believe that completes phase one of the paving. Let me, if you give me a minute, I will make sure that I got everything. I don't want to leave anything out. 45th Avenue, between Grant Street and Harrison, is being paved, and Georgia Street between 39th and 49th Avenue will be paved, and crack sealing will also be done for previously paved streets. So that is the total Phase 1. Because we got community crossing grants, we are going to bid out Phase 2, and that will include all of the grants that were awarded during community crossing, as well as additional streets. I can tell you also that Forest Avenue east of Montgomery, actually east of Harold, because we took it up to Harold, will be not only repaved but also restructured, because as those of you who live out there know, there's a flood that occurs every time it rains near Forest and Rush. And so we're going to reconfigure that to keep that flooding from occurring. The workers, you may recall that April 1st started the Love My City, Love Your Block. They launched in the Ambridge Horace Mann area, which is Route 3, and that area is from 2nd to 4th, from Grant to Taft. They then went to the area from 2nd to 4th, actually 2nd to 5th, I'm sorry, from Grant to Harrison, and then they will move from from Taft to Harrison, and from 5th to 9th, or the railroad tracks, whichever comes first. And then once they finish that zone, they will start Route 8 on April 29th. That will be the Miller area, and then the next area that they will, after doing Miller, Adna, and Glen Ryan, is they'll be on Route 10, which is the east side of Glen Park, and that will start by Monday, May 20th. And one of the things that is happening is that as they go from zone to zone, they're pulling out all of the 311s in the area, and to the extent that they can address them, and there are some that are about demolition, although there's some demolition that's going on as a part of this, or other things that may involve more time, they're addressing the 311s as they go. Mr. Chair, I'll take any questions.
Is there any question by any councilman for the mayor?
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Rogers?
Thank you. A couple of things, Mayor. First of all, we spoke regarding the 1900 block of Delaware. I don't know if you're aware, they have not completely cleared it, but someone has dumped a boatload of tires. And that's the problem we were having at that location, is that because all the debris had not been removed, people started dumping. And once people start dumping at a particular site, or it turns into a dump site, it's very difficult to keep it clear. I will be giving that information to my assistant to put on the 311, but just wanted to let you know, because we had talked about it, that there are tires. Now, regarding those tires and others in the city, the Household Hazardous Waste Collection and Green Awareness Day, is that an opportunity for the city to, for example, remove all of those tires in the 1900 block of Delaware and other areas in the city? Is that something that we can do, or is this just for residents? And I received the press release where it indicated organizations could be a part of it. But is this something that all the tires that we have here in the city, can that be taken care of on that day,
No,
April
ma'am.
27th?
No, ma'am. On that day, that is for residents to bring their household hazardous waste. We are going through, and we've done it in the zones that we are working in, have removed tires and will continue to remove tires because we know that there are tires all over the city. And what we've essentially chosen to do, we're finding is when we focus in areas, and when we put as many people, with the exception of those who are out doing potholes, in that area, it is an opportunity to provide a more comprehensive cleaning. And the 19th and Delaware site is on our list, and actually redevelopment is going to do that because they were the partner with the National Guard who did the demolition in that area. So we are aware of it. It is on our list.
Okay, thank you. And finally, at the last council meeting, I requested the schedule for the cleanup throughout the city, and I was told I would get that, and I haven't received it yet.
Are you talking about the 5x5x5, or are you talking about the Love My Block?
The Love My Block.
Okay, we will be sure to get that to you.
Okay, that is it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Mayor, Ridge Road and Grant to 45th and Grant, I know some of that's unincorporated Carroll Township. Is the county going to pick up that section? Because, you know, when you get to that section, that's where it's a problem, just as you go over the tracks going south on Grant Street.
Ridge Road.
Ridge Road and Grant going south to 45th. I know we're doing 45th and Grant to
Right,
Harrison,
right. So we're
but-
doing, are you talking about Grant Street or 45th?
No, I'm saying Grant Street to 45th.
South, okay.
Going south.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
So, we are doing that street.
Okay.
And, I believe that the way that it happens, because it's on the line.
Right,
We
county's
would
on
be
one side.
responsible for all of that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, one other thing, the patching of the side streets, how we coming on that?
Potholes,
Yeah, potholes.
they're making hot patch, although they made it like April 7th and then didn't make it for a week. So they made it today. We are filling potholes. We have been filling them for the last, really 2 months, but it's been with cold patch, so as it rains, it washes
Right,
away.
right.
But now that we have the hot patch, I think people will see a much more lasting filling. So we are filling every day.
I know it's been a challenge because the weather's been up, down, and all around, you know. Sunday was crazy.
Yeah, it has been.
Right.
You know, we had trucks out.
Right.
We were salting more than we were plowing because we didn't want to exacerbate the potholes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
President? Okay, I have a question in regard to 650 Jackson Street.
Yes.
Where are we at on that?
The alley team has that on their list, Councilman.
Okay.
So, in fact, I
promised
was talking to GHA staff yesterday.
Okay.
And I would say you should look for that to happen within a week.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President? Madam Mayor, on the paving, the Phase 1, in the First District, what date is that expected to start? Do we have a date?
I don't know, but I can get that to you because it has to be re-engineered. In fact, what I think you'll see is that there will be a temporary fix similar to what we did with Airport Road when we kind of just put a smooth, it's not smoothing it out, but made the surface better. And then it has to be re-engineered to deal with the drainage.
Okay, but that's with regard to east of Harold on Forest Avenue, but what about just in general, the paving for Phase 1?
Oh, the paving for Phase 1 has already started.
It's already started?
Yeah, it has begun.
has it started in the first district? And I just didn't
Um,
notice it.
So on the first district list, I'm going to ask Clotilde, I think Forest is the only, and Locust are the only two on the first district list. Is
Right.
there another portion?
No, that's all I have.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is all that's, in the first district, and that is gonna be handled through, some of that is gonna be handled through the Gary Sanitary District. So to Mayor's point, he's working on engineering for that. So that, is something that Gary Sanitary District is handling.
So likely what will happen is that Locust will go first. And I can get that information.
Okay, I'd just like to be able to advise people
Sure.
when it could be starting. And then the second question was regarding the Love Your Block. You said Route 8 is the Miller section?
Yes.
But what was the date that that was going to start? I'm sorry.
April 29th.
29th, thank you. That's it.
Any other questions, council members? Thank you, Mayor. I was happy to be with the fire chief guest on today, and we was down at the garage, and just to see the number of fire equipment that we have, where we can bring a number of equipment in for service and still be able to operate the city efficient. And so that was a good thing to see, that we're able to do constant maintenance on the rigs and on the ambulance that we have inside the city. And also, the chief gave me a little bit more good news, that they will be adopting Buffington Park. And he's let me know that we're going to see a great difference in there. And the firemen, we toured at least two of the firehouses, and they are well excited about making sure that they adopt their park and bring their park back to life there. At this time, we have a few speakers on today. I think we have about 6 speakers. Ms. Donna Jack, Ms. Kendra Johnson, Mr. Riso, and Cliff Caldwell, Jim Nowacki, and Mr. Allen. Be our last speaker. In that order, please. You have 3 minutes.
I don't know how many of you are familiar with the State Board of Accounts. What they do is audit municipalities to make sure that our tax dollars are appropriately spent. For over 7 years, the State Board of Accounts has reported that Gary has extremely poor internal controls, and that it is systemic. That means it is throughout the entire city and departments. If your decisions about the city finances are based on the information you have available, and your information is bogus, then your decisions are bogus. That's just how it works. Now, just a little bit of what I said last time. If you go to the city website, Gary Commission for Women, there are no board members listed. I do my homework before I get in public and say something. I call the facility. They don't even know who the board of directors are. So I'll leave that at that. But as far as grant non-compliance, you don't have to take my word for it. Get online. Look at the State Board of Accounts under grants. They do a supplemental report about grant issues. The police department's grants are in total disarray. The same thing is for the fire department. During Karen's State of the City address, she stated, and if you want the recording, I can give it to you. She stated that the financial problems were due to her staff not doing their job. She's in control of the staff. The State Board of Accounts report goes directly to her. She threw them under the bus. My suggestion is, Karen, get under the bus with them. Ooh.
Next speaker, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Riso?
Supervisor, after Mr. Russo. What I'm gonna speak on, keeping it in our backyard, which is the city of Gary. Wow. Look around throughout our city. I see on certain labor and trade, high-paying jobs performed by contractors and subcontractors, which I'm sure that they don't live here or spend very little money here. You know, I work with a lot of members of the GNS, General Services, and happen to know a lot of them on a personal basis, and I know that they work like Hebrew slaves, in my opinion. I feel that they need a raise, possibly more members on the team, or training in certain fields where in which contractors are not needed, and they can perform certain jobs to make them more of an asset to the city and themselves. They work all year long in different climates, which I myself know how it feels, and I know it was a rough job. I used to love the outside, but old age kicked in. I think that General Service has a big responsibility, and people neglect that the city's here simply because now they become the janitors and the maintenance men of the city. And when you know that someone's cleaning up behind you, simply, you really don't care what you do. They have to clean up all the areas behind it, and it's not right. You know, there should be a special grant or a special fund set aside to perform the task, give the training for the tasks that I spoke of previously. Just as well as hiring casual, instead of getting, I know what it was, consultants, instead of doing, getting a bunch of consultants. We have a lot of educated people in here, and that's why I had an issue with the young man who came before the council, 2 council meetings ago, because I felt that he said, in my opinion, that Gary is not good enough. Well, Gary is full of educated, talented, skilled people, and there are a lot of individuals who can learn quickly if you give them the opportunity. So why pay all this money to the consultants, and why pay all this money to these contractors when in fact all you have to do is train the individuals we have in already, because they're more likely to stay in this particular town anyway. And in all reality, when you knock out a lot of the contractors, you save the city money, and those individuals become a great asset to themselves, where they can move on. They also become a great asset to the family, just as well as a great asset to the city of Gary. So my biggest thing is keep the money here, because if we keep the money here, we're the main ones who fight and complain about what's not right. But if we give away all the jobs to the outside,
Thank you, Mr. Riso. Mr. Caldwell?
I was happy to hear President Brewer mention that the proposal will be coming forward before the council for tax abatement to attract new people here to the residents. We did it many years ago, I believe, under Scott King administration, when we saw a lot of houses go up in the 3rd district, 4th district, and 5th district specifically. And it's like once that program went away, the construction stopped. People stopped coming to the city. We still see some houses being built in Millie, but I think that program will really spur some residential development. But in that process too, I think it's important for the city to streamline and get rid of some of the red tape people have to go through to construct anything in the city. It's a very long, drawn-out process, one of the longest in the area. In fact, if you register a rental property, you got to go upstairs, once downstairs, back upstairs, and then downstairs to show the girl the receipt, then you get the rental sticker for your rental property. I think that should be looked into too. When I started with the sheriff's department 3 years ago, I was working in the Winfield area, and all these houses were being built and stuff. And I noticed a lot of Gary city employees and police and firemen are building homes in Winfield, Crown Point area. One policeman actually owns land. He bought land in Gary, but he said that the way the tax thing worked out, that the loan and stuff would have been too high for them to pay. The property tax rate was too high in Gary, so he wound up building in Winfield and got a better deal. I think we're missing out on a lot, and I'm happy that that proposal's coming forward, and I look forward to the council
Mr. Wacky?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. Several weeks ago, many council members, members of the public, may have seen Channel 2 had run a story on the police vehicles that had been out of service that were piled up in vacant lots in various areas around the city. A week after that newspaper story ran, I came before the council. This was 2 weeks ago, and I brought it up again before the council that this was an important issue. If it was not an important issue, it would not have made major media outlet coverage. They weren't here to throw stones. They were here because this was an important story. When I brought it up before the council, it wasn't simply to hear myself talk. It was because I feel the council should take an interest in this story, that it's an important story. Well, last week, our major print outlets, our daily newspapers, had also run major exposés on issues regarding those police vehicles, those out-of-service police vehicles. And the questions raised deserve this council's interest. Now, I ask the question, if we're scrapping these vehicles for parts and using them on police vehicles, that's improper. It's against it's against police code. You're not supposed to be using used parts on police cruisers. It puts the police officers in danger to have these unsafe vehicles. It's all, but when the mayor was quoted in the paper, she said even more curious things. She says these vehicles are not being scrapped for parts for police cars, but the parts are being removed, but there's no indication of what happens to those parts after they're removed. If they're being sold to third parties, what's happening to the money? Are the city employees doing it on city time when they're supposed to be repairing vehicles? They're scrapping these parts and selling the parts? This is more than just your major run-of-the-mill, typical Gary shenanigans. This is a story that in my mind puts this council directly in the crosshairs. This council has responsibilities. When we accept money for these grants, it's not just money for you to spend any way you want and dispose any way you want. There are specific requirements for how you handle that grant money, how you dispose of vehicles, and all the vehicles are bought with grant money. So make no mistake, there are stipulations regarding every vehicle the city buys. And
Thank you, Mr.
Wacky.
Wacky.
What was exposed
Time is up.
on those major news stories.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Just one question, Mr. President. I didn't get the date for my hearing. You said 2 weeks from now, we're hearing the motion that we're not going to have.
May 8th. May 8th, yes.
That being said, my name is John Allen, and I'm nobody. Well, I'm just a guy named Gary. I'm a citizen, but I can be anybody. And for that reason, I'm everybody. And I'm not going to get up here and complain, moan, and whine, for lack of a better word, about problems we have. I will say this. I am concerned about our lack of ability to access our elected officials. I give credit when credit's due. When I try to contact the mayor, she's the most accessible mayor in any city I've ever lived in. I've lived in a few. But that aside, going through the chain of command is very difficult. It's very difficult. Often when you reach a department, you're spoken to from a position of authority, not from a position of citizen, and you're told everything you can't do, what can happen if you're not doing what I ask, whatever your fines, penalties, and punishments they potentially do if you're not listening to attention. That's the environment that needs to change. And the reason why I say I'm nobody and I can be anybody is because when I came here, I didn't come here necessarily as in good intentions. And the time I've been here, I've been embraced by the city. And some of the best things I've been able to do, I was taught here. I come from an ideology that you differences, and we're gonna have them, we still have to be family here in Gary, one citizen to another, and that's important. So we need to not take our differences so personal, and know that our fights are basically for the same means, our liberty to be able to fight, and that's what makes us citizens and Americans, and we need to keep that in mind. With that being said, I'm gonna get out of the podium, and I wish you guys a good night.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson is the last speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to the council, those artists, and those joining us by way of the media. I'm sorry for the delay. I received a call from one of my residents, and if you know me, when there comes a problem in Dory Melton, I'm gonna take that call. And which brings me to this today. There is, one of the things I've been hearing a lot of is a lack of communication and also the idea of not having enough information. And one of the residents was telling me, I called the police and Crown Point pulled up on my phone. And I had to explain to the person, because they just moved here from here, to here, that all the 911 calls are Crown Point. So she hung up twice, not understanding. So that could have cost somebody their life or cost somebody not getting the services they need. But once again, it brings me back to reminding people, not everybody in Gary right now has been here all their life. Not everyone that is here right now knows their way around here. So we need to make sure that we get out the information that needs to be gotten out. One of the things I do, I pass out little cards that was given to me by Commissioner Allen with all the street names on. And I can't tell you how many people, even Gary people, thank me for those cards because some of them don't even know all our streets. So, but let's be careful. It's getting ready to get warmer. Let's be on the lookout for our children. We don't want them hurt as they run around the city. And if there are programs going on for the youth this summer, we need to get them to the mayor, to 311, so the parents, if they want to call and find someplace to take their children, they'll know where they can take their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson was our last speaker, and just before we leave, I have a message from our Park Department and our General Service Department to all elected officials. After the election is over, they're requesting that we remove all our signs and make sure that we pull the wire up, because once those wires get inside of the lawnmower, the old lawnmowers are down, and they have to take them to the shop and go through the whole process of being repaired. So yes, that's a courtesy after the election is over. Let's all do what we need to do, however the election go, that we remove our signs and make sure we clear those accesses where we have our signs at throughout the city. And I believe we all would do just that. If there's nothing else, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.